Fentanyl, an extremely powerful drug, has had a major influence in the U.S. since the 1960s. This opioid is typically only acquired through medical prescriptions. However, more widespread public access and overall abuse of the drug are what has made fentanyl play such a prominent part in the over 100,000 drug overdose deaths in 2021.
It's at least one of the top 3 drugs that was ever manufactured. For what it is used for medically, it is like a godsend. If you have family members who are dying from stage 3 cancer, that will give them the ability to kind of function up until they pass away.
According to the CDC, fentanyl is prescribed in the form of transdermal patches or lozenges and can be diverted for misuse and abuse in the United States. In April 2022, the American Medical Association released an article stating that in the past decade, our nation has a 44.4% decrease in opioid prescriptions. At the same time, however, our country continues to face a worsening drug overdose epidemic.
Illicit fentanyl is primarily produced in Mexico. There's very little of it, if any, produced here in the United States that's outside of medicinal uses. The illicit fentanyl, the fentanyl that's trafficked across the U.S.-Mexico border. There was some produced in China that would make its way through the corridors of Mexico and up into the United States. Now the precursor chemicals are generally made in China, India, and brought into Mexico. Now it's being manufactured closer to the border. It's trafficked across and then distributed out throughout the United States.
According to the DEA, fentanyl is about 100 times more potent than morphine. It was introduced into medical practices as sublimes in the 1960s, and abuse of fentanyl initially appeared in the mid-1970s and has increased in recent years. Just as recently as 2021, the Cathedral Catholic High School community failed to escape fentanyl's lethal grasp, as they suffered the loss of Connor White to an accidental fentanyl overdose. This tragic student casualty had a wide variety of impacts on the tightly knit CCHS family.
I think the impact was immediate when we all learned about what happened with Connor. I think there was this heightened awareness around drugs in particular, and fentanyl specifically, and loss, but I can't say whether that was lasting. Certainly the loss has had a lasting effect, and I think we all still feel it for sure. But whether the reason behind why Connor is not with us is still impactful, I don't know the answer to that.
It's not like Connor took a handful of pills and overdosed. He took one pill that he thought was a Percocet, and that one pill had, been mixed with fentanyl, and it was enough to kill him. And, it could have been any of a number of people who could have gotten a hold of that pill. And it just so happened that it was Connor. And I just can't emphasize enough that any pill that is off the street can be the one. That can be the bullet that'll kill you.
This fentanyl issue is by no means going away. In fact, it is worsening. And if we wish to stop this, it is crucial that a proper spotlight be continuously placed on this mortal threat, especially considering the younger generations who are the most exposed and in danger of drugs and abuse.
I would visit the One Pill Can Kill website. If you just Google One Pill Can Kill, you'll go on there and they'll show you kind of the problem that we're talking about. There's images that will show you what we're talking about with the pills, how close they are and how easily it is to be deceived.
2 milligrams of it is pure fentanyl, is where we begin to see people pass away that would have no tolerance. It can kill you the first time you take it, and you don't even have to take the entire pill.
The statistics are truly frightening, with the knowledge that just 2 milligrams of pure fentanyl can end a human life, and that in just 1 pound, there are 453,592 milligrams.
Pure fentanyl, the size of a pinhead, could kill you. Calendar year 21, 11,200 pounds interdicted, and that's just by Customs and Border Protection. We're interdicting maybe 5 to 10% of what actually comes across. Figure 11,000 plus pounds last year that we interdicted. Maybe multiply that by 10 or 20 is what likely made it across into the streets of the United States.
I've seen and dealt with more fentanyl than anyone. I cannot tell you how much is in the pill by looking at it. I cannot tell you where it is in the pill that's like that. And powder has become the new wave that's come here. It's highly addictive. The withdrawals are terrible from it, and they're painful.
Fentanyl has been used medically for the pain management treatment of cancer patients. However, its strong opioid qualities made it an easy target for drug dealers who've been lacing fentanyl into other drugs.
Whether it be marijuana or methamphetamine, cocaine, you have people that are actively seeking to consume other narcotics, and they're unaware that they're consuming something that's been laced with fentanyl.
On the daily, Customs and Border Patrol processes 159,598 incoming privately owned vehicles and over 490,000 passengers.
Within San Diego itself, just in the first few months of the year, over 150 deaths related to fentanyl, 4,000 calls to EMS for a medical response out to someone who's had an adverse reaction to consuming fentanyl.
As of April 9th in the 2022 fiscal year, the San Diego sector has already captured 313 pounds of fentanyl, which is up 20% from last year. In addition to this, the southwest border has captured 654 pounds of fentanyl, meaning that the San Diego sector is making up 47.9% of all southwest border captures.
We have to collaborate because no individual organization is outfitted to take on the problem by themselves. So one of the things that we do in law enforcement is we'll put together task forces to combat whatever the rising problem is. Like at this point, it's fentanyl.
As a culture, a major threat is that we feel comfortable enough to assume that pills in any form will not do us much harm. However, in the words of writer Daniel Handler, assumptions are dangerous things to make. And like all dangerous things, if you make even the tiniest mistake, you can find yourself in terrible trouble.
The fact that anybody would take a pill that doesn't come from their doctor is beyond me at this point with the numbers of people who are dying from it.
We have much more of a comfort level when we see something that appears that it was produced in a way that it was from a manufacturer. In your head, no one would make a pill that if I took it, I'm going to die from it. All of us would have this because that is how we identify with medication.
We all have to have a heightened awareness of what the problem is, and then what the consequences are of the movement of fentanyl into our community, and then through our community into the greater country as a whole.
Peer pressure, of course, is without a doubt, it's going to be kind of the biggest issue for young people that they face.
I think it's going to take all of us to have awareness, not turn the other way and think it's someone else's problem. It's all of our problem.
It is clear that fentanyl is a significant threat to our nation. With that understanding, it is crucial that all Americans get educated on the best plan of attack to fight fentanyl and its unstoppable rage and power on our society.
I think it's going to come from really, as a country, going back and focusing on family values, education, treatment, and consequence.
We need to educate kind of from top to bottom, and that includes both parents, educators, law enforcement, and young people themselves.
No, you can't take things that you don't know where they came from. It's not safe.
The safeguarding, I mean, we should all be carrying naloxone. Naloxone is the reversal medication. It is unable to do any harm to anyone. You can't get high with it. It is a medication, but it's essentially like soap and water that goes right onto the receptor and washes it off, which is where fentanyl goes on the brain. Onto these receptors. And so it cleans it off, and people will pop right to in many cases and come right back and not even realize that they had been unconscious.
If you are at a party and there are drugs there, and the person sitting on the couch with you, all of a sudden everybody's backing away from because they've either been hearing that snoring sound and someone's shaking them and they're not waking up, or they're not breathing and everybody starts backing away and panicking, you need to be calling 911. You need to be getting the naloxone out, asking if somebody has it. That person, once they overdose, is helpless.
We have a thing that we call a death rattle, and that is this snoring. Your central nervous system is being told by the receptors to slow down all the way till it says basically just go ahead and stop. And it's telling it to stop breathing. But your brain knows better, and it knows that it needs, hey, I need oxygen to survive. So there's a fight that takes place, and this is like sleep apnea, is what it'll sound like. It is at that moment that people need to intercede. If you're not there for it, you give them no chance.
If you take on real responsibility, that's where you have real reward, and real responsibility is not easy. It can be tough.
More information that we can get you guys to give out, like our high school students, to our lower grades, the better. Because sometimes kids listen to kids better. The peer-to-peer is much better than, you know, us going out and talking to you guys.
We all cannot afford to be mere individuals amidst this deathly epidemic. This is a fight that will continue to purge an inconceivable number of our American brothers and sisters if we do not unify as one, educate those around us, and practice thorough caution when dealing with those seemingly dependable pills. This has been Aiden Andrzejewski, CCTV News.